Star vs. the Forces of Evil belongs to Daron Nefcy, Disney Channel, and all other people associated with its creation. Please support Star vs. the Forces of Evil and go buy the Magical Book of Spells. Hello everybody, Raspberry Barrel here, and now we're back for the rest of Eclipsa's chapter in the Star vs. the Forces of Evil Magical Book of Spells. We left off, we just finished reading the Midnight Shriek spell, so we're in like the spell section of the book, and there's going to be some extra stuff. So, next thing in the book, Ouroboros. This spell will make your adversary eat his or her own feet. It's good for if you want them to stop talking or stop walking. Hold your wand straight up to the sky and allow the upspring to pull you aloft as you say, Aura, and then Boris as you land, swinging your arm down and pointing the crystal at your target. The next spell is Low Self-Esteem Nightmare Dream. Just like it sounds, this spell comes in handy when you need to disarm your adversary by clouding their brain with a sea of unwanted negative self-speak. Like all good insults, this is an acute attack. Grab your wand with both hands, best to start with a two-handed grasp until you've mastered this one, pointing it at your opponent, and murmur Low Self-Esteem Nightmare Dream. Once you get good at it, you can wiggle your fingers a little bit to make yourself seem really witchy. The next spell is Hypno Slumber. This spell will make your adversary sleepwalk away from you. Effects can last for eternity or for a few minutes, depending on the constitution of your adversary. Hold your wand out in front of you with an arm straight. Make swirling motions with your arm from the shoulder. Say or think the word Hypno Slumber repeatedly. You may need to say it aloud at first to master this spell. You'll know it's working if a large spiraling disc starts to form in front of you. Once the disc is the diameter of your shoulders, it's ready to cast. Point your wand at your adversary and the disc will form a beam. Be careful with this step. I misused it once and sent Uncle Solaris sleepwalking off into the woods. A body swap spell. This is a wordless spell. The point is to do it silently. You don't want your adversary to know what you're casting. Hold your wand aloft and stand on your tiptoes. Lift your head back and stretch from your toes to the tip of your wand. When you feel you can't stretch anymore, have the intention of body swapping deep in your heart and exhale. If you do this correctly, you will be lifted off the ground and you and your target will swap bodies. You won't feel any of their pain, so it's a great opportunity to have them run into the fireplace or a wall of nails. Things have taken a turn for the worse. Mother is gone. It happened quickly. The monsters ambushed her camp in the night and the entire battalion fell. Both sides lost many in the battle. I haven't even had time to mourn, and already the wheels are in motion. Mother's will has me betrothed to Shastakan, so it's unavoidable. He will become my king and move into the castle in a fortnight. Thank heavens for the lock on this book. I feel it's the only place I can truly be myself. The Muni army, along with the Solarians, made a profound strike against the monsters last night, and I guess I should have comfort from it, but I don't. The Prince of Darkness wasn't harmed. We met secretly this morning at the old shipping canal beneath the Rose Tower. It's obvious that the recent turn of events is going to strain our relationship, even though the Prince of Darkness had nothing to do with the ambush. He was opposed to it, and he knows I'm opposed to the human aggression towards monsters. He asked if I was going to pursue my mother's agenda with the monsters. It's a fair question, but not one I can even begin to answer now. For levity, I told him about my first night with Shastakan. I asked Shastakan to remove his boots because I don't like them in the to be worn indoors, and to my surprise I found that he doesn't wear socks. He explained that socks trap in the ooze that needs to naturally leak from the spider bites so they can heal properly. The Prince of Darkness laughed as I described the corn-colored hue of Shastakan's toenails. Fortunately, Shastakan has accepted that our marriage is one of obligation, so there aren't any expectations we will carry on as a real couple. For the time being, he's happy to be living a life free of persistent tiny attacks from spiders and the resulting ooze-filled boils they cause. The Prince of Darkness respectively asked if he could be allowed to break from his vegetarianism in order to eat Shastakan. I teased him for his jealousy, and we said goodbye with a kiss and went our separate ways. The pain of the distance between us is almost unbearable, but I know we will be together soon. What started as a mutually beneficial arrangement between Shastakan and me has become problematic. As a second-born son, he'd be given no title in the Spider-Bite court. The kingdom will go to his older brother. Taking him as my king has meant a lot as a show of solidarity and goodwill throughout all of Muni. Being king of Muni ought to have been the best he could have hoped for. But now he's feeling entitled. He's started to make demands. He would like to have children. I don't want to do that. Not with him. I told him it's not too late to have our marriage annulled. He told me that he felt he was falling in love with me. I told him I loved the Prince of Darkness. He was shocked to have learned this, but I told him I believed, and this is true, that the love the Prince of Darkness and I have for each other will be what creates lasting peace between the monsters and the humans. He laughed at me as though I were a foolish child. The Prince of Darkness and I met tonight at our usual spot beneath the Rose Tower. Changes have been made in the ranks of the monster army, and he has been put into a leadership role. The Solarian warrior army made significant advancements against the monsters, and he had a hard time not blaming me for this. I told him I was still advocating for armistice, but I had to lead the kingdom as well, and the monsters must not trespass on our lands. He reminded me that originally all of these lands of Muni belonged to the monsters, and he's right. What do you want me to do? I pledged. Leave with me, he said. I was shocked to learn he was leaving. He is taking the army to a fort-filled monster sanctuary east of the Fajaris, a place for the monsters to regroup and plan for future movements against the Butterfly Kingdom. I told him I couldn't betray my kingdom. You've already done that by loving me, he said. He reminded me that his people don't blame me for the sins of my ancestors. He said I'd be welcome among them, at least for now. He warned that eventually I will have to pick sides, and eventually he won't be able to sway the monsters to accept me after a point. He has also warned me that although he and his groups want to ultimately peaceful coexist with the humans, with a fair sharing of land and assets, there are often monster factions who feel they are superior to the humans, and they want nothing but the destruction of our people and our magic. One particular fraction of some concern is the monster of Septersis. They're particularly cunning and full of righteousness and indignation, and our warfare will have to be rethought if there's ever proper conflict with them. They do not have the same weaknesses as the other monsters hordes. They can't be killed properly. They seem to be ageless creatures with no ability to forgive or forget, carrying the grudges of their forefathers as if they were their own. A wanted poster. Wanted. Wanted in all lands by order of the Magical High Commission, aka Seth of Septersis. Even the Prince of Darkness, or the Plucker of Limbs, as he is known to my people, had fear in his voice as he recounted his dealings with the Septarians. He believes that he has some diplomatic sway with them, enough that he could quell their uprising, but he would need to know the Solarian warrior army would make no more aggression towards the monsters. I couldn't promise that to him. Then come with me and save both of our kingdoms, he finished. Hello, Shastakan, my sweet king. I know that you have found my key and have been leafing through this book, and you've likely read what I've written, though none of it ought to come as a surprise to you. I have taken to learning Lomunian, the ancient language of the old queens. Fortunately for me, this translation is guarded secret passed between mother and daughter for generations, to be used only in times of crisis for transmitting information in secrecy. Well, this kingdom is in crisis, and so is this marriage. From this point forward, all of my entries will be in the Lomunian. Goodbye, honey. And as Eclipsa just stated, the whole rest of her chapter will now be in secret code. I'll try to just give it to you in little parts. Okay, for the next 2 pages, we have 5 different things in secret messages. So, just a little pause for you to have time to pause the video and try to decode yourself, and then we're gonna continue. Okay, here's the first part right here. It says, I call the darkness unto me, from deepest depths of earth and sea, from ancient evils unawoken, break the one who can't be broken. To blackest night I pledge my soul, and crush my heart to burning coal, to summon forth the deathly power, to see my hated foe devoured. If you are wondering, I have witnessed firsthand the result of this spell. I've used it and it works against the Septarians. I'll say nothing more about it. And now this last part, take your time. It's quite long. The next part says, tonight I make my escape. To the future queens who inherit this book, I hope that time will show that my decisions were just and right. I don't know what the future holds for our kingdom, but it's clear the mounting tensions between the monsters and humans are at their peak. I know it seems like I'm thinking only of myself in this decision, but maybe it benefits the kingdom too. And that was the last thing that Queen Eclipsa, the Queen of Darkness, wrote in the Magical Book of Spells. Okay, important parts. Well, anything from Eclipsa is important. We get to see all the spells. Eclipsa used a bunch of these spells in Season 4. We get to hear about the little dock that's underneath the Rose Tower that Eclipsa used in the one episode where we first got to hear Globgar talk and sing. She talks more about Shastakan and how he was really demanding. He wanted kids with her. He was really just taking advantage of her and everything he was given, being the King of Muni. And then he read her journal and she started writing in Lomunian, which is basically just that one spell, I guess. She just had enough of him too soon. And she says that this is a spell and she refuses to give it a name, so we all assumed that this was the spell with no name. But then in the show, there's that she used a spell on the Solarian warrior that she says, I call the spell that has no name, my mother's gift. So I'm wondering which one of these is really the spell with no name. kind of got to think it has to be that one. But then you got to wonder, maybe Eclipsa's spell with no name is like a advanced version of it. I don't know, maybe like a better, like she was able to make it more safe and less dangerous. But maybe you have to like sacrifice part of your soul to make it less dangerous, because in Solaria's chapter she says that she's working on this spell that she's not going to write much about it, and she hasn't given it a name, and it's her total annihilation spell though, and she hasn't finished it, she can't perfect it, and so she's going to pass it to Eclipsa. So then Solaria's is the total annihilation spell, which is, she also is like, it's a spell without a name, even though it's called the total annihilation. But here's Eclipsa's spell that does not have a name. So that's confusing. So then, after Eclipsa writes this entry, she basically just leaves the wand and the book there in Muni with Shastacan. Eventually, they adopt Festivia, and Eclipsa and Globgor have Meteora. So Meteora is, so somehow, like, I'm going to say, they had Meteora. Eclipsa was then, Meteora was taken from them, and they were trying to figure out what their plan was to do. Quickly, once Meteora was taken, Shastacan replaced Meteora with Festivia. I'm going to say then Eclipsa and Globgor came to, like, try to get their daughter back, but by then it was too late, but they didn't actually find out what happened. They just, Globgor quickly ate Shastacan, and then Eclipsa was crystallized. And then Globgor crystallized as well. And so that was the second part of Eclipsa, the Queen of Darkness's chapter. Thank you all for listening. It was a very interesting chapter, and you gotta feel pretty bad for Eclipsa. So, Star vs. the Forces of Evil belongs to Daron Nefcy, Disney Channel, and all other people associated with its creation. Please go buy the Magical Book of Spells and support Star vs. the Forces of Evil. Thanks. Bye.